for this week about Dry Grasses, which is 2023 film from the Turkish director Nuri Bilge Ceylan, who's perhaps best known for Winter Sleep from 2014, which won the Palme d'Or, and also, and I dread to say this, you remember that film that I reviewed called Once Upon a Time in Anatolia?
Was there some Mongolian docudrama out at the same time? Because I think most of my attention was on that and the latest developments in cinematography.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so like many of the director's previous features, this was Turkey's entry for the Best International Feature Oscar about Dry Grasses, was that it wasn't nominated. Also set in Anatolia, a remote village where a teacher, Samet, lives with a fellow teacher. They have a quietly competitive relationship. Samet likes to see himself as an ally of the kids, in particular as a smart 14-year-old girl who he's sort of taken under his wing, and he buys her gifts. One day there's a class inspection. The inspectors come into the class, they take everybody's bags, and they find in her bag a love letter, which is then passed to him. And she comes to his office and says, "You have the letter, can I have it back?" And he says, "I've destroyed it." And she says, "No, you haven't destroyed it. Give it back." And he says, "No, I've destroyed it." And she says, "I really want you to give it back to me." She knows that he's lying. Meanwhile, the other teacher is striking up a friendship with Nuri, who lost a leg in a bombing and just is very sort of involved in political discussion and political thought. But what happens then is that the two teachers then find themselves accused of inappropriate conduct by pupils who, because of the process, have to remain anonymous. But they start to find out who the pupils are. And the central guy is at first shocked and angry, but then he comes to think that actually the real target was the other teacher who he lives with. And he sort of starts going about getting his own low-key but very insidious personal revenge. Now, this is a story that takes its time. It's several hours long, during which time the focus shifts from the teachers to the pupils to the woman who they've both got an interest in. And at one point, and it's a very strange moment, at one point, just before a crucial scene, the film completely breaks the fourth wall. And the central character, he says, "I'm going to go to the bathroom." And he walks off the set, and he walks out of the set, and he walks into the sort of the studio space where the film is being made. And it reminded me of, do you remember that film with Florence Pugh, The Wander, that began outside of a studio, and it kind of came in and came in and came in and came in, and then it moves into the set, and then the story begins. And there was a discussion we had about what is that doing? What is that device doing? That the Brechtian alienation device. And I think what it's doing is it's telling you that this is a story about stories. It's a story about the stories that we tell ourselves, and particularly when you have a central character who is kind of very, very quietly arrogant and full of himself and self-righteous. And it's about the stories that he tells himself about himself and about others around him. At least I think that's what it's there for. Now, I know that this scene has proved a curveball for some viewers. I was talking to another critic who had liked the film very much and then was really baffled by why we were suddenly taken out of the drama. I didn't find I was. I kind of found it was, like I said, I think it made it a story about storytelling. The title, because ever since there was that time that you said to me, what does the title of this thing mean? The title, About Dry Grasses, is really only kind of invoked at the end of the film, in which there's a sort of monologue-y voiceover about the fact that this is an area in which there are only 2 seasons, in which it goes from being everything is frozen and covered by snow, or the sun has come out and the grass has almost been burnt dry. And it's sort of about the kind of the world in which those two polar opposites exist with kind of almost no midway in between. It also reminded me a little bit, and this was more recent, there was a film that I reviewed quite recently called The Teacher's Lounge, a German film about a teacher at school who's very high-minded and, believes that she has a great relationship with the pupils, and then does something that suddenly starts to unravel that relationship. And one of the questions is what she is doing right, or is what she is doing an arrogant belief in her own power? I mean, this is rather more ruminative. And as I said, I think it's about the way that we construct a version of ourselves. It is long. There is no question that it takes its time, and it wants you to sit there and ponder with it. I actually found myself very engaged with it. I found it very compelling, which I was surprised by, since at the beginning I kind of thought, okay, this sounds like it's going to be a lengthy walk, a long walk along a long road. But actually, I think it kind of earned the right to take the time that it did, because by the time you get to the end, I think you have had time in your own mind to figure out what the film means, or at least what I think it means. But I also understand that other people may think it means something completely different. But that's the scene in which it breaks the wall and goes out. I really did spend a lot of time contemplating what that meant, and I think it meant it's a story about stories. At least that's what I think.